Two developments on the health care front today. First up, you've got House Republicans who are voting as we speak here tonight to try and get rid of the president's signature health care reform law. They've done this many times. This time, they're following the White House delay of the section of Obamacare that makes the large employers provide health insurance. They pushed that back for a year. Now, the vote is on whether or not extending that delay, pushing it even back beyond that. Now, of course, the bill, it's not going to become law despite the House vote. We've been down this road before. But supporters of health reform, they got a major shot in the arm today, and it's thanks to another piece of health care legislation that is making news. In fact, it's now fact, not even just black and white on paper. Huge savings on insurance rates, and they're all courtesy of Obamacare. It's part of the law that Republicans love to hate. And Andrew, front page of the Times today, they put in real numbers, real savings.
And Rich, we've seen similar headlines from California and Oregon, but today for New Yorkers, healthcare reform got real. State insurance regulators announcing that thanks to Obamacare, individual insurance rates in the states will be cut in half or even more next year. How is that possible? Quote, supporters of the Affordable Care Act credited the drop in rates to the online purchasing exchanges the law created, which they say are spurring competition among insurers that are anticipating an influx of new customers. Now, these discounts only apply to individuals buying insurance on their own, not for the vast majority of New Yorkers who continue to get insurance through their employers, though the cost of those policies are expected to drop as well. The rate system announced today comes in 4 tiers from platinum to bronze, but there will be savings, especially for New Yorkers on the lowest end of the income spectrum, as you can see here, Rich.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much. And joining us now to help separate some of the fact from fiction is Elizabeth Benjamin. Elizabeth is Vice President of Health Initiatives for a group called the Community Service Society. They advocate on behalf of low-income New Yorkers on several fronts, including health care. Elizabeth, thanks for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing good, thanks. All right, people see the front page of the Times and they say time out here. I heard nothing but doom and gloom about this Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare. Now, all of a sudden, I'm seeing if I'm an individual buying my own insurance on my own, that my premiums could be going down by as much as 50%, if not even more. It's part of the narrative they really haven't heard before. So put it in context. How will this impact New Yorkers, Obamacare, when fully implemented as early as this fall?
Yeah, it's an extraordinary thing. I mean, if there was ever a state that the Affordable Care Act could work in, it's New York. We have people in the individual market where they're out on their own. They don't have job-based health insurance. These folks, 17,000 of them are out in the market on their own, and they have to go and try to purchase health care from insurance plans. Right now, prices are around $1,200, $1,400 a month. That's just, you know, that's $24,000 a year or more, and people can't really afford those kinds of premiums. With the Affordable Care Act, premiums that we've just found out in the last day or two, that premiums are going to go down by over 50%. Now, why would that happen? Well, 3 things are going on at once. First of all, under the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, the state is going to be setting up these insurance exchanges or marketplaces where everyone can come together and make an apples-to-apples comparison across plans and be able to buy more efficiently and effectively. Right now, if you were with a small business and went out and tried to buy health insurance, you would have a dizzying array of 15,000 different products. That's like so much choice, it's no choice at all. So right now in the individual market, premiums are high. And so we'll have these marketplaces, and that'll make the market be more organized and efficient. The second thing that's at play is that all these individuals' risks are now going to be pooled together in a way that makes sense, because you'll have this mandate, which is the third thing, a requirement to buy health insurance. And so you'll have a bigger group of people. Instead of the 17,000 people who are very sick or very wealthy buying insurance, you're now going to have 615,000 people, because of the mandate, going in and buying health insurance together. And so, of course, premiums drop when you have a bigger pool of people. You have, you know, the carriers are more competitive and prices go down. The third thing at play, and the final thing at play, is that in this marketplace, that's the place you can go to get financial assistance to buy health insurance. So even families of 4 who are making $94,200 a year, so very middle income people, will be able to go and get financial assistance in this marketplace to buy health insurance. So 3 things are happening at once. You know, setting up of a marketplace, this requirement that everybody pools their buy insurance, and then a bigger group of people buying insurance will also be able to get the third thing, which is financial assistance in the marketplace.
All right, Elizabeth, come back to small business for a second, because everything I've heard from critics is this is going to be Armageddon for these folks. They're going to have to lay off people wholesale. They're going to be shuttering businesses as a consequence. It's going to be unaffordable to keep their doors open once Obamacare takes effect. What's reality and what's rhetoric here?
Well, all of that is 100% rhetoric and actually myth. For small businesses or small employers with less than 50 employees, there's no requirement to offer coverage. And the people that would seek to undo the Affordable Care Act keep trying to claim, confuse things and pretend that there is a requirement on those small employers. That's not true. And in fact, the reverse is true. For small businesses, there will be this thing called a shop exchange, a small employer health options program, and that's the place where small businesses will be able to get up to 50% tax credits, which means they'll get a 50% discount for offering coverage, up to 50% discount for doing the right thing and offering coverage. So for small employers, it's only carrots, no sticks. So I'm not sure where all these myths are coming from, but it's just wrong. The people that are concerned were the larger employers that had more than 50 employees, and at one point there was supposed to be a penalty on them, and that was just eliminated or postponed for a year. So even for large employers, 95% of which are already offering coverage, there's not even a stick for them. So for employers, there's no stick, and in fact only carrots for the small employers who going through this exchange and purchasing the insurance through these insurance exchanges or marketplaces are able to get up to 50% discounts on the prices they pay. So it's only good news for small employers, and I'm not sure why there's been so much mythology there.
Finally, Elizabeth, why have you been able to put in sound bites what this administration for years has failed to do, which is they haven't been able to sell their own plan, and I would argue into the vacuum comes all the misinformation that I threw out there to you. Is the fault of this at the administration at their own level, that they haven't sold and explained this thing? I think people think you need to have a PhD to understand it, when in actuality, while it's not simple, it's not nearly as complicated as the general public's been led to believe.
Well, I think that's sort of unfair on some level, because the opposition to the Affordable Care Act, I think there was an article in the last couple of months that came out that said that the opposition to the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare is outspending the administration and other well-wishers, if you will, on a magnitude of 7 to 1. I don't know anybody who could withstand those odds. I think the administration is really trying its best to get out there and be clear. But I'm pretty sure if I can figure out how to explain this pretty clearly, I'm sure that there's really smart and smarter people in Washington that can do a good job too.
All right, Elizabeth, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's bring in our panelists. You met all the other guys. Now let's bring in Assemblyman David Buchwald. He's a Democrat, and he represents parts of Westchester County. And Assemblyman, thank you very much. Healthcare. It has long been assumed that while this may be the signature piece of legislation for the president, politically, not just in this region, but even more so outside of the metropolitan area, it was a political loser. You not saw today's story, but obviously you're closer to this than we are in Albany. Is the belief that once this fully rolls out and is fully implemented, not just for individuals, but for small businesses, that people are going to look back and say this was good for New York?
Anyone who's tried to purchase individual health care insurance in New York up till now has learned how confusing and expensive a process it's been. And the new health benefit exchange will not only lower rates for individuals and for small businesses, but it also sets up a much more straightforward 4-tiered health plan system that allows, in this case, 17 insurance companies to compete over customers. And I think that that's going to from an economics point of view, really drive benefits to consumers. And consumers are going to be able to see that in their pocketbooks, and small business owners as well.
And Obie, I'm begging for a soundbite here, but no, because I want to bring everybody in. But from a conservative perspective, if you just look at two of the core tenets of this, which is it encourages competition, and secondly, you're going to have more efficiency for dollar out of this. Why isn't this something, just on those two core principles, before we get into, overreach or whatever, that this is better as a bottom line product here than something that was more monopolistic?
There's 2 points on it. Number one, we as Republicans, one of the points we wanted to get in the bill was to be able to cross state lines for that competition. And what this is doing when they've leveled the playing field now is they've made fewer requirements on the insurance companies of what they have to provide. If it's fewer requirements what you have to provide, that in fact lowers the price. So competition is good. We always felt the way to do it was to allow me to go over to New Jersey or Connecticut to buy that insurance, which we couldn't do before, because every state had different requirements.
Oklahoma that has almost no requirements.
But then I can buy the insurance that I need as a 46-year-old guy who buys my own insurance, as a matter of fact. I don't work for a big company.
Andrew, and you guys, is this going to be, at the end of the day, something that history will look back and say, forget about good for New York, this was good for this president, or is this going to be something that he spent so much political capital on with very little payoff?
Well, I think we're seeing the political repercussions of this going forward, and probably will for the rest of the decade, the 2010 midterms, and it's led to all sorts of political problems for the president and will for a while. But, I mean, look at Social Security, look at Medicare. These are fairly cherished programs at this point that have helped millions of people over decades. And I suspect that's probably where it's going when we get more people health coverage.
Yeah.
Richard, indications are history will judge this president kindly on health care once he's gone from office and we look back. Just remember, in contrast, how it blew up in the face of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton.
True. And the news today about New York and these other states that are reporting there are actually going to be cost savings immediately for consumers is really just a nice addition to what we thought was going to be the more redeeming argument, which is over time, this is going to create cost savings. It's going to lower costs also
And they also
for
said the
medicine.
devil in detail will be next year.
But
How
this
many
is-
people, because it's really 17,000 people, it's a small number here that are buying this, how many people will come on board next year? Estimates are right here. We're talking more than 500,000.
This
Our
is for the individuals. That's the thing. Don't forget
Right.
that. This is individual
small
service.
businesses, though, the tax credits, I know you like those, that's part of this as well. We take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to turn to Albany and ask the Assemblyman if, especially the Moreland Commission kicking in right now, if it can really drain the swamp. We'll be right back.